Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Punter, the show that keeps you across all the sports betting action across the sporting calendar. Today, as we have been over the past few days, and indeed weeks for that matter, we'll be delving once again into the Olympics betting. We'll be talking women's football, men's football. We'll also be talking English League season as well. The Championship, of course, kicking off in the not-too-distant future. We'll be delving into cricket and indeed golf. I'm pleased to say that Chris Graham is with me in the studio. Chris, we've got to start with the Olympics.
Yeah.
There is a feel-good factor around Team GB at the moment. But is there a feel-good factor amongst punters when it comes to Team GB?
I think patriotic punters, definitely. I mean, Jessica Ennis was, a short price favourite, but the nation's darling, as we talked about yesterday, and you get a lot of patriotic money in her, I would imagine. She's did the business, and everyone else has done the business. Queen Victoria Pendleton as well, who's had a great games. Look, if you're a patriotic punter, it's been a wonderful 10, 11 days.
I know someone who isn't a patriotic punter, and that's the Bet Butler. One suspects, a little bit like me, Nigel. We've been doing our brains, haven't we?
What is this? Terrible. Every time I hear the name Pendleton, Brownlee, I mean, it just sends shivers down my back. This is the most expensive tournament I've ever had in my life. I went massively under 23.5 goal winners. I thought there's no way we can eclipse what we did in Beijing. I thought the patriotic support would be a hindrance rather than a positive factor. How wrong have I been? And it's still not over. I mean, we're on 21 at the moment and counting. I mean, I think we could be absolutely talking serious money being bet. And I think what's happened here is a tale of two silent punting strategies. One of them is obviously your professional guy, your spread betting, your big players. They've all gone anti-GB. And all the smaller guys, the guys in the betting shops having tenors, having 20s, going to the events, having a bit of a laugh, watching it on the TV, they've cleaned up. So basically, I think bookmakers, despite Great Britain doing well, I think they've had a really good competition because there's been so much bigger money against the British athletes, and I think all the smaller money has been for them. So I can't think of any other worse tournament than this. I mean, these names will go down in history, and every time I see reruns of here, I just know it's another 50 gone, another 50 gone, another 50 gone, and it's just been absolutely... I'm going to cancel Christmas in the Seeley household after these Olympics. It's all over.
Have we missed a trick here, Chris? Because as punters, and we like to think of ourselves as good punters, we like to be a little bit counterintuitive and try and find value elsewhere. We don't like generally backing short price favourites, but when we reflect on how badly or otherwise we've done over the course of the Olympics when it comes to betting, should we have lumped on some of the short price good things like Alistair Brownlee earlier today?
Well, if we talk about Alistair Brownlee, Trevor put him up here on the show 3 weeks ago, I think 11 to 10, 11 to 8. So if you watched the punter a few weeks ago, you definitely would have collected on Alistair Brownlee. I still maintain that Ennis was short in the bet, and I know she absolutely romped it, and that's a ridiculous thing to say, but and Mo Farah as well. The price just didn't really entice me. The stats went against them, and I'm a stats punter, so I'm happy to look myself in the mirror and say, all right, I didn't back them, but I can live with that. That's how it rolls.
Well, there is one favourite that should come good as well over the course of the next few days, and that's when it comes to the men's football tournament. We are, of course, down to the semi-finals. We're going to take a look at the Brazil semi. Brazil were the short price favourites to win the tournament. As soon as Spain got knocked out of the group stages, Chris, Brazil's price contracted even further. It's difficult now, I guess, to see them not winning gold.
Yeah, I guess there's two camps here. Are you with Brazil or are you with the field? It's been a funny old tournament, hasn't it? Spain just been really disappointing. Uruguay who got to the groups as well. I think it's been a bit of a disappointment, this tournament, to be honest with you. And I'm still sticking to my guns and opposing Brazil here. For me, they haven't really impressed me at all in this competition so far. They've a very leaky defence. Surrendered leads and almost lost, but they've been winning, but not really impressively. So I'm willing to take a much bigger price on one of the other teams.
They have been scoring, Butler, but they've been conceding as well. Does that give their opponents any sort of chance according to the market?
Well, not really according to market, and also, I mean, listening to Chris there, I mean, I take it swimming, heptathletes, and all that. The Olympics, he's been an absolute revelation with his tips. But I'm not taking any betting advice from a Scotsman in the latter stages of any football tournament. Absolutely no chance.
Cool, man.
Absolutely no chance. But I tell you what, Brazil, I think they're absolute certainty. They're going back to the swagger of the Brazilian teams before. They thought, okay, we can score 3. We'll let 2 against you. We'll score 3. We'll let 3 against you. Score 4. They're going back to the old style of Brazilian football, not like the Dunga years under the Brazilian side. Very dour. This is a very attack-minded side, and hopefully this is a good thing for world football to come. I totally agree with Chris on the fact that should football be in the Olympics, has been a bit disappointment. The GB team did exactly what you expect them to do, go out in the penalty shootout like South Korea when they were favourites. South Koreans, though, didn't show much potential in that game for me. They're a big price at 13-2, but they're very physically strong. We know what to expect, but obviously Brazil are absolutely on a different level to them. Going forward, they've got the attack by Pato, Neymar. They've got goals galore in them. And at 4-9, I just think that it's a serious money bet. You know, you weren't going to be sitting there having a tenner on it or £20 on it. You're probably best to back them through a draw first half and Brazil full time at around about 5-2. That would be my sort of smaller bet for you to recommend. But at 4-9, you're not going to get rich. But you know what, winners will winner, and I think Brazil at 4-9 have to be the bet. I think they've got too much quality to South Korea. We know what to expect from the Koreans. They'll be tough to beat, but the quality of the Brazilians should come to the fore. And at 4-9, I think they're still it's a little bit too strong for me, and I think they still win the competition. It's been strange competition, hasn't it? I think from a bookmaking point of view, because the punters haven't come out in their droves for the football tournament as we thought that they might do, as Nigel intimated there. In lots of ways, the Olympics needs Brazil to win gold, doesn't it?
Yeah. I guess that puts a cherry on what's been a quite disappointing cake for the football in that sense. I think you're right. I think the other sports have captured the betting public much more than people anticipated. The football's almost been a side event, really, and I think that's been displayed in turnover. If I were having a pop at this particular game, I actually completely agree with Nigel. The bet I had was draw Brazil in this game. South Korea playing really well. They don't concede many at all, Dan. Very well organised defensive side. I think it'll take a while for Brazil to unlock them, but I think they'll do that and win 1-0, 2-0. It might take them to the second half to breach the defence. They have got so much attacking talent. I mean, it's no real surprise that they have been scoring plenty of goals. I mean, I don't know where you stand on players coming to the Olympics, but when you look at that Brazil squad, there seems to be 10, 12 players that we have all heard of, whereas when you look at the other squads, Uruguay had, I don't know, 2 or 3, something like that. It seems almost unfair, given the strongness of Brazil's squad. Well, Brazil just really, really want to win this. They're taking it 100 times more seriously than Great Britain were, for example. They've never won gold in this competition before. There's talk of if they don't win it, the manager could lose his job. It's basically a dress rehearsal for the World Cup in 2 years' time, so they're taking it humongously seriously. And, you know, they really want to win this. They do want to win it. They are the favourites to win it. Let's get a bookmaker's view. Alan Alger from Blue Square joins us. Alan, what's it been like, the football tournament view from a men's perspective? Because we believe, really, that the punters haven't really got involved as much as perhaps we thought that they would do.
No, maybe not, but I would say that at least the results have gone our way. So I think there was always speculation as to whether punters would use this as a nice little bridge between Euro 2012 and the start of the domestic season. And to be honest, we've seen a normal amount of bets from our usual punters on this. But I think there's so much going on in the other sports with the Olympics that people's eyes are diverted elsewhere. And you know, even these two semi-final states haven't had the biggest of fanfares compared to everything else that's going on around the Olympics. Is Brazil your worst result on the outright book, or have you already made your money with Team GB crashing out and Spain going out early as well? Well, Team GB, I think we were trying to force people to back them, really. You know, we went a price of 9-1 after that disastrous friendly against Brazil, but on the same night, you obviously saw the quality of the Brazil side, and that made them strong favourites with us. We did take a tiny view on Spain just after that, managed to get some money in on them, and obviously with them crashing out without even scoring a goal, that was good for us, especially the matches they were involved in. But overall, of course, when a favourite wins a tournament, if Brazil go on to do that, it still will cost us a few quid. What about the women's event, Alan? Has there been money for the women? Because obviously Team GB put in a strong showing in the group stages. What's your view on the women's tournament? Yeah, they certainly did. I think that I think overall we were looking at at least three of the 4 semi-finalists that we managed to get last night correct. Certainly the market did anyway. And the way that that's panned out, the USA against Japan in the medal match, well, I would say that it's created a lot of interest, certainly more interest than any other women's football. But if you compared it to the men's, obviously there wouldn't be much of a comparison to be had. We're going to delve into the odds very shortly indeed, but just one other thing on the Olympics, Alan. We were talking about these short price favourites and the fact that Team GB is doing so well, but as punters we always try
and look for a different type of angle. We look for a bigger price runner. We look for something other than Team GB as punters, whereas the general public might be putting their 10s and 20s on Alistair Brownlee and Jessica Ennis. How have you seen those Olympic markets? Have you seen big hitters for Team GB performers?
Not necessarily. I think that if you're a general sort of man in the street punter and you're looking at prices of 3-1 on, 4-1 on, they really don't appeal to you at all. And obviously, if the home contingent have a good chance, or that particular person is representing Great Britain, then I suppose as a punter you don't really want to get involved. If you're that desperate for a bet, you might try and find an outsider. But I think, as we speculated before the games got underway, you would probably look at it as an opportunity just to enjoy the event and watch the event. So in the same respect, obviously in the 100 metres, there was a massive move for Johan Blake, and then Bolt was as short as 3-1 on by the time they went to start that race, which is incredible considering the amount of speculation ahead of that. So really, I just think that maybe some professionals have maybe skewed the market a bit for the others and backing people like Blake. Christina Urugu was actually as big as 100-1 leading up to the fact that when she actually got second. So I know a few people that had a few touches at 100-1 each way on her. And I just think that sometimes people can read probably too much into it, and I think at least it's balanced out with the 10s and 5s of those not looking into it too much, with those that have tried to find an outsider.
And just finally, back to the women's, what's the best result for you when it comes to the final? We've got USA versus Japan. Both have been impressive, of course. This is a repeat of the World Cup final from 2011. From your point of view, who do you want to win?
We definitely, with Japan, the outsiders here for this one. We definitely want them to win. We need them over and above the USA, who have been well backed throughout the tournament. But again, as I say, the liabilities are nowhere near as bad as in the men's game.
Alan, many thanks for joining us. That was Alan Alger of Blue Square talking Olympics. I mean, the women's is fascinating, isn't it? USA are bound to be popular, but Japan are world champions, Chris.
Well, Japan, these two sides have got history. Japan beat them in penalties last year in the World Cup. It shocked the world, shocked America, the soccer mums that populate that country. But the USA beat Japan 9-0 back in 1999, Japan's biggest ever defeat. So the real history between these sides. But USA, as you can imagine, strong favourites. They'll want to right the wrongs of 2011, but come on, Japan at a big price.
Let's get the latest prices. Butler, how do we make this market?
Again, I said never listen to a Scotsman and the top of that stage. Don't listen to him again. USA are the equivalent of the Brazilians in the men's football here. They're very attack-minded. They even went 2-0 down against France early doors, come back and 1-4. 11-10 is an absolute knock. I saw these Japanese girls play. You know what? They're not all that. I don't think they're all that. They won 1-0. They're okay, but the Americans have got the talent. They've got the quality. They are the team. And the reason they're 11-10 is because they're not as fashionable as the men's. That's why. If this was a men's football match, USA would be 1-2. That's exactly right. 9-0 3 years ago. Use that. You like your stats, Chris? 9-0 3 years ago. 11-10's value. Get on them. The real Americans will win 11-10. Draw 23-10. Japan 14-5. 14-5, just a little bit under the 3-1 if you're not familiar with those sort of strange odds there, but a little bit bigger than even money, USA. And I've enjoyed this competition so much because GB are out. And it doesn't cost me any readies. So I need to claw it back, and I'm clawing it all back on USA. USA! Come on, girls!
It's not like the Bet Butler to make any sort of opinion on women's football and get it wrong, is it? Let's face it. That was Nigel Silly. More from the Bet Butler, more from Chris Graham as well. We'll be delving into more of the athletics when it comes to the Olympics. Plus, we've got regular football, English football to come, and indeed golf and cricket. Don't go away. Welcome back to The Punter. We're talking Olympics and London 2012. In this section, we delve into the athletics. Plenty of finals still to come on track and fields. And, of course, the Team GB gold count keeps on rising. It's probably not going to rise, well, it won't rise, in the next two events that we talk about. We've got a couple of prestige finals coming up. First of all, we're going to talk about the 110 metres hurdles when it comes to the men's, Chris. I mean, traditionally, Team GB have had a good squad in this when we delve back a generation or so. Not so much now, though. This is more to do with the Americans, and there's plenty of strength and depth across Europe as well.
There is. And we've got Andy Turner, who and another athlete as well, whose name escapes me, apologies, who qualified for the semi-finals earlier this morning. But you're right, Dan. We're missing Colin Jackson. We're missing Tony Jarrett, the nearly man who never quite got a medal at the big events. But it's a quality event, it really is, and we've got a short price favourite at the moment. But yeah, for me, it's America against Europe here. And there's a short price favourite. Can we get them beat? I've got reasons to suggest we can. After we look at the odds, I guess.
Yeah, let's take a look at the odds with Nigel. The Bet Butler's got all the news when it comes to the 110 metres hurdles. Nigel.
I'm very interested to find out this one who's going to beat this big odds-on shot from Chris. I'm intrigued. I'll tell you what, you can look so much into stats. You can find any stat that will throw anything up, but form, class is class. Get your stats. This guy's different league. He's 1 to 3. Obviously, it's not going to attract you. It's not going to be attractive. But this guy's run the 3 fastest times of the year. Obviously, the Chinese man, Lee, was out of the race. Merritt, 1 to 3. He's an absolute certainty. You can look at your stats. You can delve into all your history. Oh, only 3 on a Thursday. Only 3 Americans have ever won. Leave it out. This bloke's absolutely different class. 3 to 1 on. He wins. The trouble is we don't get any each way because it's such a short price. The best you're running for is silver. Richardson, 6 to 1. Rubles at 9 there. I mean, this is where the Americans are playing against the Europeans, as Chris rightly said. But Merritt, 3 to 1 on, he will win. 3 of the fastest times this year, all been Merritt. 6, I think it's the top 7 farms of the time. 4 of them have been Merritt. Come on in, Mr. Graham. Tell me where we should be having our money on, because I'm telling you, this favourite does not get beat.
Merit on merit for the Butler, Chris.
Well, I've seen this conversation with him on Friday as well when he was very keen on Lottie Freese, but I tipped up Catherine Ledecky, much to the dismay of the Bet Butler. She won at 16 to 1. I believe in stats. They do deliver. And I'm taking this guy called Aries, or whatever he's called, on. I'm an Aries, but just ridiculous name. And for that, he's getting punished. I'm taking him on with the second favourite here, Jason Richardson. Why? Well, he won the World Championships last year. He won the World Championships in Daegu. Where was Aries then? He was nowhere. This guy won the 2011 World Championships. He's got the 3rd best time of the year so far at 12.98, just 0.05 seconds behind this Aries guy. So there's not much between them in terms of winning at their absolute 100% peak. So why is Richardson as big as 6 to 1 then? For me, if there's just 0.05 seconds difference, it should probably be about 5 to 2 Richardson, but he's 6 to 1. You've got to go with the price. That's why we're here. Looking at big price, looking at big odds, looking for value. I've found value. I'm getting on Jason Richardson at 6 to 1. Come on, that would be amazing. That would really upset Nige.
Richardson 6, the value against Merritt at 3's on. You pays your money, you takes your choice. It's completely up to you. Different opinions here. Well, we have different opinions when it comes to the women's 200 metres final as well. The final is tomorrow. What's your view on this one? Because once again, we've got a short price favourite.
My view is it's a very posh race. There's loads of people with double-barrelled names, treble-barrelled names. It's that immediately again puts me off being a working class boy. But yeah, it should be a great race. Very competitive. Again, there is a short price favourite, not quite as short as the 110 metre hurdles. But can we get Alison Felix beaten? It's a tough one, but I'm going to try my best. But you're right, it's about Alison Felix really. This is her event. The other competitors really have. Some of them prefer the 100, some of them prefer the 400, but Felix prefers the 200, and that's why she's a strong favourite.
She's a strong favourite. I get the sense here that you might not be going for Felix. Let's throw over to the Butler first of all, though. Nigel, who are you going for when it comes to the 200 metres for women?
Well, before we go on the 200 metres, we've done this show for about 4 weeks, and he's gone about 1 winner. We've gone on about 45 different events a day. We've gone about 1 winner. And them stats had to come right. Oh my God, we're only at the end of it. You can't eat value, Chris. You might get 6 to 1. You can't feed the kids on value, mate. It's ready to get your kids ready. This obviously got another favourite. I personally think the strategy here is to back the 3 jollies. I can't see what's going on about the men's 200 metres as well. I think Felix is a good thing. She's 2 to 5. It's not going to be a price that's going to make you lots of money. But having it in the double with the 3 on shot that we spoke about there in my man Merritt in the hurdles, and probably even Usain Bolt as like a little treble. I think that's where the betting shop punters and the new punters at home will be doing, and that's what the bookies want. They want one of these turned over. I don't realistically see any of them getting turned over. Felix is without doubt the fastest in the competition. She's the fastest this year. Her form in the heats has been exceptional. I think she's going to take some really get going. Jetta 15 to 2. I backed her for the women's 100 metres. I thought she had a chance, but she didn't really do it. So, but I think Felix 200 metre specialist, and if you get on the little treble, I think that's probably the best advice to do, or maybe even do the double with the 3 on shot. I just can't see this one getting beat. But Chris, well done. 47 events, 140 and 1 winner. Good lad, mate. Keep them coming. I make notes.
Who's the value against Felix?
It's the second favourite, Fraser Price. How great would you feel if you'd won the 100 metres?
Yeah,
You'd feel amazing, wouldn't you?
I feel confident. I feel relaxed going into the 200.
Absolutely. You'd be absolutely jumping. You'd be pumped for it big time, and that's what she is now. She's won the 100 metres on Saturday night. She's feeling great about life, and she's in this race. She's had the third fastest time in 2012, like my man Richardson as well. There is a bit of a gap between her and Felix in terms of the best prices, but again, it's the price that's wrong for me. I think Fraser Price should be about the 72-41 mark. She didn't deserve to be favourite. I ain't saying that, but what I am saying is 71 is too big. I mean, if the price is too big, you just got to get involved, and that's what I'm saying here. 71 for Fraser Price to put egg all over the butler's face again.
Team GB goals we're going to concentrate on next, because they've been racking up over the course of the last few days. We're past the 20 mark now and counting. There's probably one just about to be won as we're talking, although Victoria Pendleton hasn't added to her personal and indeed team haul today, with silver earlier on this evening. But a week or so back, we were fearful that Team GB wouldn't reach 20. Now, what do we think they can achieve? Because there's still plenty to go for. There's boxing goals potentially to be had. There's a little bit more cycling potentially to be had. There's another Mo Farah race where potentially he could strike gold. So what are we predicting over the remainder of the Olympics?
There's still a lot of presents under the Olympic tree waiting to be unwrapped, and they could be golden presents. That's what we're thinking. It's a great story here, Dan, isn't it? I mean, all the doom and gloom after Cavendish failed to oblige on the opening day. A lot of people feeling bad about that, and the line was about 22.5 back then. And I read a great quote from a guy, Wayne Lincoln, for Sporting Index, who said the first 131 people who placed a bet after Cavendish's race sold the line at 22.5. Basically, we were going under. So there was absolutely zilchoid confidence in the British team. But my oh my, hasn't it turned around? That last Wednesday, of course, the girls in their own boat, and then Bradley Wiggins in the evening. It's just got better and better since then. And yeah, absolutely racking up. The line's about 26 now. It's the sky's the limit. It really is. We could hit 28, 29 maybe even.
28, 29, 30. Butler, how are you seeing it?
Yeah, I was one of them 130 blokes. I was one of them. That was me. I was one of them. I won't be doing that. I weren't doing that when he was up there cheering. I was doing that. I just want all these other sports to finish and get to the track and field where Great Britain can't win a medal. I can't bear to keep turning on the telly and seeing us win another dressage. Oh, come on, leave it out. I'll tell you what, though, the thing is here is that the line was 23.5. I personally went under 23.5. I went under 22.5, and I went under 20.5. And the only saving grace, I never did a spread bet, because I would have absolutely done it in big time. So I've done a fix. I know we're going to do our money. The line around about is about 28 to 30 there at 7 to 4. Some bookmakers this afternoon went 29.5. That was automatically sold down to 28.5. Subsequently, it's been bought up to 29.5. So punters are reckoned 28 to 30. And you know what? That looks a decent bet now, 28 to 30. I mean, if bookies are saying 28.5, 29.5, around about 5 to 6, you can get the 3 of them mirrored there at 7 to 4. You know what I might have to do? I might have to have a lump on here to get me out of trouble. I might, and then start cheering them all. Come on. And if I do have a lump, you know it's going to come in 27 or 31. But 28 to 30, I would recommend. That seems to be the line the bookies are saying. The punters are sort of going under 29.5, then they're going over 28.5. So the British public out there are thinking 29 goals, and 28 to 30, bang in the middle there at 7 to 4 would be probably a decent bet as we stand now. But terrible, terrible market for me.
Yeah, the more I think about it, the more gold chances we've got. I mean, Tom Daley potentially, the high jumper as well, could strike gold.
Yeah,
it could be good, couldn't it?
Could be.
It could be a very good Olympics. It's already a very good Olympics, certainly for Team GB. We've got much more betting chat to come on this edition of The Punter. We're going to be focusing on the Championship. We're also going to be taking a look at the latest golf, the USPGA Championship, plus, of course, the latest odds when it comes to the Test Series between South Africa and England. Much more to come on The Punter. Don't go away. Welcome back to The Punter. Still to come, we're going to be talking golf and cricket. However, in this section, we're going to turn our attention to the start of the English football season. We've been delving into the Premier League. We've been looking at lower leagues as well. But time now to talk Championship. We're going to talk Championship outrights. First of all, it's a competitive market, Chris, as we know. Leicester have been talked up, as have the teams that have come down, including Bolton. In lots of ways, I think there's been more money in the Championship outright market than there has for the Premier League market, because there's much more opinion here. There's more teams that you can fancy.
Yeah, well, we've saw some big price winners win it in recent years. It's always a competitive field. There's always a surprise package in there. There's always a team that flop. There's always a team that come up for League One who do well. There's always a team that come down for Premier League who fail badly. So it's a mixed stew, if you like, the Championship, a real trappy betting heat, and one, be very conservative if we're going in with massive stakes, I'd say.
Let's get to the Butler. Let's find out how the market is shaping up when it comes to the Championship season 12-13.
Yeah, the bookies opened up with Leicester as the clear favourites, and they seem to be drifting. I mean, we've said in the last few weeks how we fancied Leicester not to be the value of the favourites. We put up a few other teams. I personally fancy Bolton. I'm pleased to say that we had the Mr. Seeley family accumulator. We all put our selections in, and we have one every year. The retirement job off to the Seychelles never come up yet. Never come up after 16 years. We've never come close. But we've actually all went for Bolton, surprisingly enough, at 15-2. They were as big as 12-1 when the first initial prices come out. Now into 15-2, clear favourites. I can see this Bolton gamble getting bigger and bigger and bigger as the season comes away. We're only a week away now, but on the build-up, when the money starts coming on these events in the next few days, I can see Bolton building up. Also as well, I mean, the Racing Post have their pull-out tomorrow, their 72-page pull-out. Be interesting to see who they tip, because that will affect the market, because people will follow their tip. Bolton at 15-2, I can see them going shorter and shorter. I think they'll be around about 6-1 shots from the start of the competition. I also think after 2 or 3 games, they could, if they win it, I think they can be down to around 9-2. So it could be a market that on the outset looks competitive, but pretty much can be dominated by 3 or 4 teams pretty early doors. On the outside, as I said, I like Leeds. I think 12-1 is a very tasty price. I'd prefer to back them to go up at 5-1. They've got new investors, new shares, new owners. And I think with Neil Warnock, we all know what a reputation he has in that division. He's buying a lot of QPR players who did it for him at QPR. He knows what to do. They know exactly how to get out of the division. At that, a decent price, 12-1 each way they could be. But for me, it's all about Bolton. There is a massive negative towards Leicester, which we've said since these prices come out just after the Euro 2012 when we first started talking about the Championship. They're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Bolton are getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And I expect money to come for Leeds at around about 12s. I think they could start off single figures. They could be the movers in the next few days.
Chris, what's your view on the Championship? Which team should we be following?
We kind of talked about this on Friday, and the point I made was there's lots of negatives about all the teams pretty much at the top of the market. I agree with Nigel. I think Bolton are more likely of the 3 that went down to come back up. We've got a great manager there. They're the more likely, definitely. Wolves, question marks. I remember they went down the last time in 2003. They had a terrible season back in the Championship. Yeah, and Blackburn for me, just no chance. They'll get relegated to oblivion very soon. The prospects of that club returning to the Premier League, I just do not see at all. So for me, I'm looking inside that graph, and I'm looking at Brighton. About 18-1. I like Brighton, I really do. They're a progressive club, finished 9th in the Championship last season. New stadium, a city that's just booming at the moment economically. There's all these factors why I like Brighton 18-1. Good manager as well, in Gus Poyet. They brought in Wayne Bridge as well, quite a coup there. So that's a team moving in the right direction, unlike a lot of teams at the top of the graph we just saw there.
What about at the other end of the table? You always feel that relegation, from the Championship to League One, it's difficult to take because suddenly the money drops even further, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And you look at the usual suspects. I guess you're looking at a Barnsley, you're looking at a Peterborough.
Barnsley get a bad press, don't they? Barnsley are, I think, favourites to get relegated. They've never really been in any sort of massive concern come Easter, April time in this division. So that's why I'd be reluctant to get involved with the very unfashionable Barnsley. You know me, and Nige hates me because I go for big prices, I go for massive odds, and I'm going for 2 absolute potential car crashes of clubs here, and that is Notts Forest. They've got a good manager and I accept that, but new owners, you know what, these guys could definitely be trigger happy and get rid of Sean O'Driscoll in October, November. Back them at a massive price. They're far too short in the outright bet at the moment. And I've just mentioned Blackburn, I'll mention them again. It's unlikely, but again, we're here to look at big odds, and I think Blackburn are about 18-20-1 to get relegated. Steve Keane, that guy can do anything. He'll remain in charge whatever happens. He's absolutely unsackable. So, that could go horribly wrong, and they get relegated to oblivion, which is otherwise known as League One.
Bet Butler, are we going for bigger prices, or is it the shorties that you like when it comes to the relegation market for the Championship?
Yeah, I suppose if you buy enough raffle tickets, you will win the raffle now and again when you keep going and going and going. I mean, I've made a couple of bold statements in the show which have been proved to my detriment and I've been very costly, but if Forest get relegated in this division, I will think of a wacky little thing to do and I'll stand by it. But that's not happening. That's not. But I do take the point that the manager might be gone, but I still think they've got enough quality in this division. You've only got to see the names there to realise what quality they've got. Barnsley 13-8. I do agree with Chris's point though. They are very short. I think I've tipped up a favourite in every single event so far. I'm not usually a favourite backer. I do like to look for some value elsewhere. And on this market, I like Millwall 7-2. I think it's a tough crowd down there. I think if they get off to a bad start, I think the pressure will really be on Kenny Jackett. It started to mount towards the end of last season, and I think they're a young side, and I think they're probably a little bit team that they try to play good football, but I just don't think they could out-battle their way out like a Barnsley can. I also fear for Peterborough, and the reason I think fear for Peterborough is because we all know the style of play Darren Ferguson likes to play at London Road. They like to go and score 3 or 4 goals, but they concede 3 or 4 at the back as well. The goals galore bankers every single week last season. And I think Peterborough could be in trouble at 2-1. You can't keep conceding goals like that and being with a chance. But Millwall definitely a bit of an outsider here. Huddersfield have got a lot of money. They've got money and they can spend. They've got the money to spend. A decent manager in Simon Grayson and a lot of money in the bank. So I think the money will get them out of it. And you've got to look at clubs down here who really aren't financially cash-strapped, because this is a second Premier League really, and money certainly does talk in this division. Barnsley on that side, they haven't got the money. That's why they're the favourites. But they have got a belief about them. They've got a manager who's a tough man in Keith Hill. He'll get the team out of the position. I think 13-8 is too short. Peterborough at 2-1. Millwall 7-2. For a speculative bet. But one thing about this, we can't really have an opinion on this league until we start seeing the games in action, because we've seen before 40-1 shots, 50-1 shots who've won it, and guys who are relegated a big price who've come down. I totally see where Chris is coming from, but I think Forest and certainly Blackburn will have enough quality in this level just about to keep themselves. I don't think they'll be pushing for titles, but they'll be mid-table without a question of doubt for me.
Speaking about watching teams in action, we have seen Celtic, of course, in action already. The start of the SPL, the weekend just gone. They eventually managed to get past Aberdeen, and of course they are in Champions League qualifying action, second leg against Helsinki. This is crucial, isn't it? Because Celtic are desperate to get back into the group stages of the Champions League. It's
absolutely massive for Celtic. It's absolutely massive for Scottish football, and I've just got a horrible feeling about this. My point here, come forward. My point here about Scottish football is that opposing Scottish teams in Europe was the road to the rich house as opposed to the poor house. I've done it for the last few years. I made loads of money last season by opposing Rangers and Celtic. Rangers used to be a club that existed, didn't know anymore. It used to be opposing them in the UEFA Cup last year, Europa League. I made a lot of money at that. Bookmakers are starting slowly to cotton on that the SPL is not actually that good a division, and suddenly the big prices and the opponents, the smaller, so-called smaller teams, are beginning to vanish. But still, HGK Helsinki tomorrow night they're a decent price. They're second in the Finnish league. The Veikkausliiga, as it is known in Finland, against the SPL. It's the class gap's not too big, I don't think. And I would be very reluctant to lump on Celtic.
Let's get the prices. Butler, how do we make the market here?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. Obviously, Celtic just heading on in the first leg 2-1. The thing is with Celtic, I think not having Rangers in it makes a detriment for any league they're going to play, because you saw against Aberdeen in the first game of the season last week. They were very confident. They thought we could win this easily, and we're 50-1 on to win the championship. So they're not going to play competitive games like this every week. Totally agree with Chris for once on this one. I think he's a Scotsman. He knows about this a lot better than I do. But I think Celtic here. I think the way I would play it personally is I would on the betting exchanges or whatever way I felt doing on the spreads or whatever, I would lay Celtic, because I think the draw running for me is a good run. I want to have the draw for me. The fact that Helsinki are already sort of 19 games or so into their domestic season is a big factor. Celtic look rusty against Aberdeen. They were allowed to a goalkeeping error of 10 minutes to go to get them out of trouble. At home, this is going to be a very tough place to go. I mean, the conditions aren't going to be what they're used to, and I think Helsinki could pull it off. But I would definitely be laying Celtic. 11-8. If I was a bookmaker, I'd stand that price PA for a nice few quid, and I'd be playing on the exchanges because I want the draw running for me as well. I do not think Celtic will win this game, but I think Helsinki may not have enough quality to do it, and a draw could happen. So my strategy, just lay Celtic.
That's the football. Still to come, we'll be talking cricket and golf next. Don't go away. Welcome back to the Punter as we endeavour to keep you up to date with all the sports betting action across the sporting calendar. In the final part, we're delving into golf, but first of all, cricket. We had the second test completed, of course, at Headingley earlier this week. It means, Chris, because it was a draw, that England need to win the last test at Lord's to level up the series. What did you make of that second test hand? Have England got any chance to make it 1-1 at Lord's?
No. No. They've got a chance, but this South African side are just brilliant. Top to bottom, from number 1 to number 11. It's just a great side. And they absolutely ripped England apart with vim and vigour in the first test. And in the second test, I thought they were in control, even though it ended up in a draw. And the fact that they put England back out to bat, didn't they, for a second innings? Just quite cheeky. It's almost like, we don't fear you at all. We'll put you back out to bat again. Huh? So South Africa, for me, totally in control of this series, and I'd be surprised if England can overturn them at Lord's next week. So for me, if I'd backed South Africa to win the series, I'd be pretty happy. Yeah,
South Africa, obviously the short price favourites to win the series as it stands at the moment. They are 1-0 up. Let's get the latest series prices. Butler.
Yeah, I've been back in the draw in every one of these test matches, and I think it could be a similar situation, which obviously brings into South Africa. I think with Lord's we know what to expect. It's a great batting track, and you're going to get big scores. And South Africa can put on any score on any pitch at the moment. This batting lineup they have. I mean, obviously with the English side, the best chance they've got to win is they've got to win and force the draw. So you're back in England there at 21-10. That's a draw series as well as England to win the test match. South Africa 2-5. No surprise, really. It's just basically whether South Africa don't win the final test, so that's the prize. I think South Africa won't get beat, hence the 2-5 will win. And I'm going back to my usual tipping of favourites, but it's not through choice. It's through the fact that I just genuinely do think South Africa they can bat. I don't think England's bowling attack will offer any sort of problems for them whatsoever, especially on a Lord's pitch, which is always accustomed to big scores, and I think South Africa will win the series.
Let's move it on to the test prices, because here, Butler, if you believe that South Africa are going to win the test series, well, they can do it one of two ways. They can either win that last test, or, of course, they could draw that last test. I mean, that could be in their minds. Could they potentially play for a draw? What about the prices for that final test?
Well, I've played the draw in both of the first two tests. I mean, I got out of it on the first one with a profit when it hit 5 on. I think I got out about 3 on, and I took my profit. If people aren't used to that, what that is, you take a bet and you take a little bit of a profit out of it. I kept the second one because it never looked at any stage it wasn't going to be a draw. People have said to me all along the draw, no back draws in test series, but this is a test series that's going being played in the worst summer we've had for years. I mean, there's rain every single day. Even there's not a doubt one of these days will be affected by rain. And the fact is that both of these teams can really bat. We saw Peterson coming out getting his high score. They can go on and score 500. There's not anything. There's not one. Any problem in any of these batting lineups. Everyone all the way down the order can bat. And for that reason, I still think that 500 and 600 scores are capable. And with a mixture of big scoring and the bad weather in about, the draw again makes the appeal to me. I think 6-4, the draw again is the bet. I've done it 3 times. We all know that usually the draw is the worst way to go. But if you're talking about test matches in Bridgetown, Jamaica, or we're talking over in the West Indies, or we're talking in Sri Lanka or Australia, where the weather's beautiful, I can understand. We're talking about test matches here when both of these teams can score 500 plus, and in the middle of what is probably our wettest ever summer in the last 15-20 years.
6-4 about the draw. That's what the Butler's going for. I mean, one thing you'd have to say that Kevin Peterson found a little bit of form, didn't he, for England, Chris?
He did, and I think we should factor in the prices, the fact that he might not be playing in the third test, of course, because he's threw his rattle out the pram by threatening to quit Test cricket because he's got issues with the MCC or whoever. What an arrogant man he really is! Like, I know, grossly arrogant man, self-obsessed individual who's not even English in the first place. Huh? Anyway, that's a side by side. Why are South Africa second favourites here? Why are England favourites over South Africa? Can't he figure that out really? Huh? They've absolutely dominated this series for me, and I cannot understand why England go into this third test as a shorter price in South Africa. It's crazy. It's almost as crazy as Kevin Peterson.
Well, you could back South Africa, you can back the draw, you could lay England. Of course, that's a different way to get those 2 results on your side for the final test at Lord's. Let's move on from cricket to golf. We've got the USPGA Championship, of course, coming up on Thursday. We talked about the outrights yesterday, but there are a whole host of markets when it comes to the golf majors. We're going to delve into the top European first of all. I mean, the Europeans haven't got a good record at all when it comes to the USPGA Championship, or indeed when it comes to just winning majors in the United States outside of the Masters. But there's no doubt when you look at the world rankings, surely we've got some sort of chance of making an impact.
Yeah, they've just got a bad record just winning majors, haven't they? As the Europeans are traditionally. But I suppose Harrington won this four years ago, and I think Martin Kamer might have won this 2009. So there's recent recovery signs. But you're right. If you look at the world rankings, you think we must have a great chance here, but we don't really, do we? Because if you know the reasons we went through yesterday, I wouldn't be taking Westwood on at any point to win a major at the moment. McIlroy as well is minding other things. Luke Donald as well. I just didn't believe that guy's capable of winning a major, really. You know, so I'm looking at other things, Dan, and I guess we'll look at the odds. I'll give you my selections.
Yeah, well, we've got top European first of all, so let's take a look at this. Whether you think they're going to win the tournament or not, it's irrelevant for this particular market. It's just who will be the best player from this side of the Atlantic. Butler, how do we price this one?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Obviously, I like these on an each way value. You get the quarter of the odds of the first four, and there's only a limited field. Some go for the first four, some go for the first three. I mean, but you look at them, there's always the usual suspects. Westwood's up there, Luke Donald's up there, McIlroy's up there. And I think rightly so, I think Luke Donald has to be favoured because every round in any major, he always just produces a 66 from nowhere, a 67 nowhere, and suddenly you see him in tied 7th on the leaderboard. And he always frames in his top European markets. Now, each way, you're getting around about 6-4 for your money there on the quarter of the odds. Now, if you're getting the first four in this market, 6-4, looks a decent bet for me. Rory McIlroy, 6-1, I like him as well. I think his form last week was pretty solid. He looks back to his swing, looked back to his best. Westwood, can't touch him. Justin Rose, I sound like MC Hammer, can't touch him. Graham McDowell, 12-1, I can't touch him. I'm not doing any dancing. But Luke Donald, 11-2, definitely worthy favourite.
Just give us a little bit.
No, I haven't got the right trousers on. 11-2, Luke Donald. I have tipped the favourite up every single one so far, but I think he's a worthy favourite at 11-2. With McIlroy at 6-1, I can't disagree with these bookmakers today. I think they've got the right people that favourites. The value of these plays here are just not in form. And over at the USPGA, you've got to be a certain kind of player to play the courses, and I think Donald and McIlroy, with their proven experience on the American Tour, are definitely the boys to be with.
Donald rarely out of the top 10, is it? I mean, and this is the thing with Luke Donald. He might not win majors, but as Nigel has just pointed out, if you back him in a market like this, you don't have to win the tournament.
You're right. Oh, he makes a very salient point there. Donald's the kind of guy who kind of hangs about around the back, and then once he gets to the business end of the tournament, he sneaks back in again. But not for me. The two I like here in this market, and Nigel was very nasty to Padraig Harrington last month when we talked about the Open. He said some horrible things about him, but I'm going back in again in Padraig Harrington. Tied 8th in the Masters this year, tied 4th in the US Open. Flat to deceive in the Open, I grant you, but a former winner of this, he won it in 2008, of course. I like Harrington, and I like McDowell as well. He's a guy who thrives in America, the good old USA. His accent's American as well, as we've discussed. He's runner-up of the US Open in 2012, earlier this year. He was tied 12th in the Masters. He's won the US Open in 2010. He likes the States like Nigel does, and so for that reason I like Graham McDowell as well.
I'll give you another Harrington stat as well. This will back up your point. 1997 World Cup winners were Ireland. Harrington, McGinley on the team. Where was it played?
Kew Island.
Kew Island,
wow.
On the Ocean Course. So there's one or two ticks in the right boxes for Paddy Harrington. I do like McDowell as well. Let's move it on to the top US player. If you don't fancy an American player to win it, this is the market we should be looking at, obviously dominated by Tiger Woods. But there are, as usual, some fantastic Americans, a lot in good form as well. And as we've seen over the course of the majors this year, with wins for Bubba Watson at the Masters and, of course, Webb Simpson for the US Open, these are the players maybe it should be on our shortlist for the outrights, let alone top US. How do you see it?
I think that. I definitely think that. The Americans so strong in this fourth and final major of the year. I'll give you my main pick here, my outright pick. We'll come back after the odds and I'll give you another American guy. But Jason Duffner, we talked about him yesterday. I'm really keen on this guy. The stats really suggest he's got a massive chance. He's in good form, but double carpet 33-1, in great form this season. I think it's 5 of his last 6 events in the USA. He's finished in the top 10. He's won an event. He's been running up in an event. He lost in a playoff in the 2011 USPGA as well to Keegan Bradley. So he's got a great CV here. And for me, I ain't just tipping him to win top American. I'm tipping him to win the whole event.
So Duffner not just for top US, but the whole thing as well. But let's just narrow it down to the top USA. What does the market look like, Nigel? Well,
it's taken you 45 minutes, Chris, to finally talk some sense, but it's finally come. It's nice to see. Nice to see you come back here. I mean, I think this market offers a huge deal of value because I think Tiger Woods dominates it, and he shouldn't dominate it. I mean, this is ridiculous how he should be the favourites. There is a section of players now who I think are at the peak of their game and arguably should be a lot shorter, and in fact even shorter price than Tiger Woods to win the whole thing, let alone the top American. Dustin Johnson, without a question, he is one top player, and on this course, be suit his game to Duffner, another one, and Kieran Bradley. I think Kieran Bradley, he won last week. They're the three I think who are going to be the three guys who come through the pack and become household names. And you're only going to get probably about another 4 or 5 golf tournaments where you can get decent prices on these kind of players. And this starts now. 12 to 1, 14 to 1, 20 to 1. These three. These three will dominate world golf, not American golf, for the next 4 or 5 years, right? And I'm telling you now, this is times we've got to get in. You've got to get your price now, because in 3 or 4 weeks, I remember that bloke on Sports Night Live. It'll be half the price of that now. So get moving on these guys. Tiger Woods had his day. Them stats about Padraig Harrington, what he did 4 years ago, I'll give you a stat for it. Blackburn won the Premier League title, boys. Well done, well done. Not a chance. These boys, so there's a new guy coming around, Padraig Harrington. I'll leave it out. He won the last 4 rounds.
He's been placed twice in the majors this year. 2 top 10s in the majors. It's better than you could do, Nige.
Well, you haven't seen me on a golf course, have you? Don't worry about that.
Thank God.
Why is Tiger Woods so short? Just briefly, why is he still short? Has he gone at the game? I mean, he's won 3 times this year. Should he be this type of price?
No, at all. He's this short because he's Tiger Woods. Simple as that. Recreational punters are still want to back him, and they'll lose by doing that because he's not anywhere near the player he was, and I would never get involved with him.
Yeah, let's just throw that over to the butler as well. What is it with Tiger Woods? Because, you know, he came back into the fore in his short price for 1 or 2 tournaments, but 6 months ago, before he started winning again, he did drift out to a decent price, didn't he?
Yeah, I think what it is that bookies don't really want to go too big in case he does win it, because he knows they know you're going to see money for him. Whatever price you put up Tiger Woods, you will see money. His true price, I mean, if you look at it statistically, we've got guys who runs computer simulations and like Tiger Woods comes out at like double the price every single week, but bookies know you can always see money for him. It's like every sport, when you have a dominant force, Roger Federer at tennis, he might mathematically not be the price he is to win the event, but you know you will see support for him, and that is why he's too short. Now, my point is, in the next 6 to 8 probably months or a year, Tiger Woods will be overtaken by these Americans, and they will become the new Tiger Woodses. They will be the new kids on the block, and Tiger Woods will not be the favourite. You've only got to see like Phil Mickelson now, the price he is compared to what he was 2 or 3 years ago. And Tiger Woods at the moment is no value whatsoever, despite these big prices. You can compare it to 7 to 4 years ago, but these band of players here, this is where the future of golf and future of world golf is. And Tiger Woods at 5 to 1, even money so that he comes in the top 4 of this market, not for me.
Fascinating, isn't it? And let's not forget as well that golf will be in the next Olympics. I think I'm right in saying who knows what Tiger Woods is going to do when it comes to that. I mean, do you think he's going to be interested? Just very briefly.
It'll be interesting in the girls in Rio, definitely. If not the golf, I'm sure he'll have a carnival in that sense.
It'll be fascinating to see what happens in Rio when it comes to golf being reintroduced to the Olympics. As for this week, it's the USPGA Championship. Tiger Woods is the favourite, obviously for Top USA, but for the whole thing as well. But I must admit, there's some serious doubts about the former world number 9. No doubts about my guests today, Chris Graham and Nigel Seeley. Many thanks to them. Many thanks for you guys for watching as well. We'll be back same time, same place tomorrow. From all of us on the Punter, it's goodbye, and we'll see you next time.